Every year, Pantone selects a color of the year, and for 2025, it's Mocha Mousse. This dark chocolate color is the closest match that I have, so we're going to make a mandala themed around Pantone's color of the year, Mocha Mousse. Last year, the color was Peach Fuzz, and I made a monochromatic mandala with the peach color, which I thought was really fun. So this year, we're going to play around with some different tones with the Mocha Mousse, so I think it's kind of reminding me more of coffee. I'm adding a coat of shimmer with this Liquitex iridescent medium. This can be mixed in with paint or painted over the top like this. And we're going to use my set of numbered dotting tools from Happy Dotting Company. I'm going to start with my number 8 dotting tool to get a nice center dot. Then I'm going to take the 1.5 and create 4 points. So I think of this as north, south, east, and west, just to get a nice even start. And then I'm going to place 2 dots in between each of those starting points. And now I'm just going to start sizing up the dotting tools going up by 1. So 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. And the way that I'm placing the dots is not in a straight line, but I'm actually placing the dot in the next circle in between the 2 dots of the row prior to it. So that's how I balance them out. I am not a mandala expert, obviously. Most of them use guidelines. I should probably use guidelines, but I just kind of enjoy patterns. Like, you guys know, patterns are a thing that is relaxing to me. So just kind of finding the right placement, and it's not perfect, trust me. And I know it's a little hard to see the dots very well on this because they kind of blend in because the color essentially matches the background minus that shimmer, but we're going to build on these. So I'm just kind of laying these down and getting them all laid out, and then we're going to start building some lighter colors onto them. Let this dry overnight, and this is what it looks like dry. So we're going to start building some more dots on it, starting with this Sable brown. And I'm placing these dots in a way so that they look like they're blooming outward. So placing it towards the center line more than the middle of the dot itself. And I went to go find my 1.5/2.0 tool, and it's missing. It was there when we started, so we're just going to have to improvise. I don't know where I put it, and I still can't find it even as I am finishing up this video. But that also brings me to an interesting point. When I start building these dots on top of the initial set, it's not always as clear cut with the numbered tools. When I did the initial set, I was going up by 1. So I went 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. It doesn't always work as perfectly once you start adding dots. So I always use I check it first. I take the dotting tool without any paint and kind of hold it up to the row of dots that I'm going to work on and see that it's not going to be too big or too small. So it may not always be going up exactly by 1. It might go up by 0.5 or it might go up by 1.5, depending on the look that I want and how I want it to land on the dots that are already laid down. Now I'm going to create a slightly lighter shade than the Sable brown by mixing that with this vintage white paint just to lighten it up a little bit, and then that's what we're going to use for the next round of dots. And I'm going to do the same exact process where I'm going to kind of eyeball the dry painting tool, the dry dotting tool rather, and see if it fits for this blooming look. And then for my missing one, I'm pulling out a nail dotting tool because I just have to make it work because I'm missing that 1.5/2.0 tool. I don't know where it went. It's probably going to show up in the most random spot at the most random time when I don't need it, of course. That's how it always works, right? One important tip I want to remind you of is one of the things I do is when I'm building dots upon dots upon dots like this, you want to make sure that they dry completely before you come in with another layer, because if it's not dry completely, you might end up kind of squishing down the paint that's not dry and it doesn't look as clean. So that would be a tip, is make sure you let them dry. I put them in front of a fan. The first one I just left overnight, so it was definitely completely dry, but you can put them in front of a fan to help it kind of dry or use a hair dryer. As more of the dots go on to the mandala, you can kind of see the creation of that blooming effect. And so this is less monochromatic than the design last year, but I think I'm okay with that. I kind of like this graduated look. I'm also going to add some dots in between my larger dots just to kind of connect the whole design and fill in some of that blank space in the back of the mandala. Then we're going to create another lighter shade by this time putting the vintage white and then adding a little bit of the sable brown so that it will be an even lighter brown to add another layer of dots. I'm trying to think, and I can't exactly remember the last time I did a mandala video, and I'm wondering if I shied away from them a bit because I have a little bit of that imposter syndrome, because there are channels that their entire focus is all on dotting and mandalas, and they're amazing and have very intricate patterns. I do keep my mandalas pretty simple. I always have, but like I said, I enjoy the comfort of the patterns. I think it's relaxing, and what better way to kick off 2025 than something that's calm and relaxing and resembles chocolate, right? Like the ultimate comfort food. But I suppose that's also a bit of an example of me falling prey to comparison being the thief of joy, because I'm not going to let it stop me from doing it. And you guys want to do really intricate patterns, there are so many good channels for you to go check out. If you want to just hang out and see simple mandala patterns, you can find some of those on my channel too. Quick tip that works really good with dots. When you get a little paint that's somewhere it's not supposed to be, you can take a damp Q-tip and just kind of roll it until you pick up the paint. Try not to smush the paint even further, but it'll take the paint right off and you're good to go. You might need to fill it in with a little bit of whatever that base coat is if it's, there's still kind of remnants of it, but the Q-tip works really good for dots. You can kind of scoop them up because they're wet. I'm adding some more in-between dots and accents with the lighter color that we created, and then also the vintage white by itself. That's how we're going to finish this design off. Now we're going to finish this thing off creating kind of a scallop on the largest dots around the edge. And some very talented mandala artists can do this all with one dotting tool, and they do what you call walking dots, where you kind of do a set of dots coming around that final dot until the paint is kind of used up on the dotting tool. I'm not the greatest at that, or at least I don't love how it turns out. So what I do is I use the numbered dotting tools to create a graduated look going around those last dots. So I started with number 3 and put a dot at the very top of each of the dots, and then I am sizing down as I go around. So I'm doing a dot on each side of those larger dots, and then we're just going to keep continuing on until we get smaller and smaller dots coming down to around the bottoms of those dots, and it just creates a really nice finished look. So when I get down to this number 1, I'm going to do 2 dots with it. So this is like a very simple version of the walking dots. It's a dot with more paint and then a dot with less paint that ends up being smaller. And as I look at this, I'm going to slap my own hand for giving myself imposter syndrome and comparing myself with some of the talented dot artists, because this is pretty cool looking. And the other thing that I love about mandalas is it kind of goes from nothing to something really cool and intricate. And it's still a simple pattern, but it's really beautiful, and somebody's going to find this and really love it. And I also love that mandalas kind of have a texture. You can feel the dots, and I'm adding a little bit of extreme hologram glitter paint for a pop of sparkle, and it also adds a bit of that bumpy feel to it. So cheers to the new year. Thank you so much for stopping by to watch, and I'll see you next time. Take care.